In 1985, things were looking up for a young man named Earl Simmons, aka DMX. He was fresh out of group home, having been in and out for many times during his youth, and back in his home city of Yonkers. X had his very own dog named Blackie, which he'd stolen from a junkyard, and a successful career in street robbery that had allowed him to get a lovely pair of Timberlands. In fact, DMX would stunt in Timberlands throughout his career, even doing a little campaign for them in 2017. And X had only recently discovered his love of music after hearing the song Silver Shadow by Atlantic Starr playing from a house that he was walking past after committing a successful robbery. So things were looking up for Dogman X, but it wouldn't take long for karma to come and bite this naughty dog in the ass. A guy called Peanut that lived in X's hood had been messing with him, so X decided to sick Blackie the dog on him and have the dog chase Peanut up the stairs. Peanut's mother had come out all in a huff on some "oh, why is your dog attacking my son" type thing, and confronted DMX with a frying pan. X fled, but it turned out she'd also called the cops, and 10 minutes later the police were on the block looking for X and his dog. Once they found DMX and Blackie the dog sitting out front of the block, they did what all good cops in the hood do. Came over and started a respectful dialogue to try and establish what had actually happened. Come on, of course they didn't. They pulled out their guns immediately and took cover. They told X to tie up Blackie the dog and come and sit in the back of the police cruiser. Turns out a complaint had been logged against the dog, and now they had to wait for animal control to come along and take Blackie the dog away. But when animal control arrived, turns out they couldn't quite control this animal. So DMX decided to make the wise decision of shouting, "Get him, boy!" And after a short struggle, a cop pulled out a gun and shot Blackie the dog twice, killing him in front of DMX's very eyes. DMX never forgave Peanut for creating the circumstances that led to his dog's death. Man, how many innocent lives are Peanut's gonna take from us? Now, DMX had been in and out of group homes throughout his childhood, but his no fucks given attitude would reach a new high when he first discovered crack cocaine. Now, DMX's drug abuse has caused him to make a pretty ridiculous spectacle of himself in the media several times over the years. But you can't really blame DMX for becoming the original Tyrone Biggums at age 15, because his first taste of the hard stuff came in the form of a laced joint that was given to him by his friend Reddy Ron. Already a keen street robber, X's new thirst for crack would lead him to begin robbing the people closest to him. He began by robbing his uncle's stash, and before he knew it, he was swiping VCRs, sneakers, and even household products like detergent just to get a fix. I'm sorry, but what self-respecting dealer would swap crack in exchange for detergent?
When I took my first hit of Persil, I was hooked. The moment I saw how clean my shirt was, things would never be the same. My missus started smelling the Tide Pods on my breath. I started slinging rocks just to feed my 5-bottle-a-day detergent habit. That life is behind me now, and I'm proud to say that I am 2 years unclean.
After getting hooked on crack, X was in a downward spiral, but he would truly reach rock bottom a week after his dog was killed when he walked into school with a sawn-off shotgun taped to his leg. I knew that DMX was a true savage at that point, not for the shotgun, but just for the pure leg hair pain that I know he'd feel when he ripped that thing off.
Yeah, that strip club ain't gonna know what hit him, huh?
Ah! Ah! So he took that dotty and begun robbing people at gunpoint, but it would only take a few days for a smooth-legged DMX to be shipped out to prison. X was shipped out to the Industry Institution of Juvenile Offenders just outside of Rochester, New York. This was the furthest X had ever been sent away from home, and by far the longest sentence he'd ever been given since being a juvie. 2 years. When X arrived in jail, he met his cellmate Bobby, a spoiled white kid from upstate who gave an equal amount of fucks as X, i.e. 0. These two hit it off immediately, and it didn't take long for them to realize that there was an opportunity to slip out of the rec room window and escape through an unfenced area. Supposedly, the security of this particular prison was a bit more relaxed than most, purely because there wasn't any towns for miles in every direction. So escaping would be easy, but surviving would be another challenge entirely. But DMX told Bobby that they had underestimated his tenacity, and he would rather brave it against the elements than take 2 years in jail. To be honest, I would probably rather do 2 years in jail than brave it in sub-zero temperatures in the middle of nowhere. But hey, I'm a coward. So DMX and Bobby made the agreement that if they got out, they would stay together. If they needed a ride, they'd hitch it together. If they needed to fuck someone up, they'd do it together. Oh, how romantic. December 1986, X and Bobby decide to make their escape in the middle of the night. They took a few days to gather any extra fabrics that they could find to make sure that they didn't freeze to death once they got outside. But obviously it wouldn't be as simple as simply walking out of jail like you could at Ford Open Prison. There would be one prison guard that stood between them and freedom. Once they slipped through that opening that they'd spotted, Bobby knocks down the security guard, and to their surprise, he just laid on the ground shivering in shock. That's what you call a shook one. But as they pressed on, it didn't take long for an alarm to sound and somebody let the dogs out. But who let the dogs out? Who? Who? I don't know. Anyway, DMX and Bobby ran into the pitch black woods with no idea where they were going. Soon after, a dog would catch up to DMX and bite down on his succulent, smooth shotgun wax leg. X fell to the ground and kicked the dog in the head until it stopped barking and pressed on. Sorry to all the dog lovers out there. X and Bobby walked for 3 whole days until they finally got upstate to where Bobby was from. Bobby told X that they couldn't go to his home, but his friend had a basement where they could hide out. Never trust a man who says he has a basement where you can hide out.
I know a place on the edge of the red light district where we can lay low.
When they found that safe house, X huddled underneath some blankets to try and get warm, but Bobby didn't hang around for long. He said that he was going to go to his parents' house and try and get money, and left. DMX never saw Bobby again. Now the next morning, DMX woke up to the sound of 2 women screaming at the sight of a complete stranger hiding in their basement. Oh come on ladies, what do you expect from a basement hideout? X told them he was Bobby's friend, and miraculously they allowed him to stay and even offered him some food. If there's one person I trust less than a man with a basement safe house, it's a woman living in a basement safe house with an escaped convict that they don't even know hiding in the basement. The woman just stared at DMX in silence as he wolfed down food after 3 days of starvation. And DMX stayed in that basement dwelling around for days like a young DJ academics trying to stave off a 4-star wanted rating. And so he just sat down there, chain smoking cigarettes, watching TV, and eventually singing along to Christmas carols. A tradition that DMX continues to this day.
Do you recall the most famous reindeer of all? Come on! Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer had a very shiny nose. And if you ever saw him, you would even say it close. Come on!
He even had his 16th birthday whilst hiding in that basement, and the woman that he was staying with even made him a cake. I assume that it was appropriate for the occasion and still had a chisel in it. In fact, it's kind of a shame that these celebrations weren't recorded so that they could have been included in My Super Sweet 16 On the Run edition. And the mother of the house even surprised X with some money so that he could get a bus back to Yonkers. Damn it, you know he wanted crack. Why do people never buy you the right gift? By the time X got back to Yonkers, he was wearing more raggedy clothes than a Yeezy season model. And on top of that, he also had an enormous infected dog bite on his leg. Not a great look. So he knocked on his mother's door and she was less than happy to see him. After a frosty reception at home, he quickly fled to his grandmother's house, who gave him a little bit of a better reception. His grandma was actually happy to see him, and his uncles even thought that he was an absolute mad lad for breaking out of jail. Hey, you think that's tough? You should have seen what he did to this dog. What, too soon? The good vibes didn't last long, and 3 days after New Year's, X got a knock on the door. It was the cops, accompanied by his mother. X's mum said that he needed to pay back the consequences for what he'd done, which is kind of ironic because she would never pay back the consequences of being a shitty mother and beating him through his entire childhood. But that's besides the point. X was hauled back to jail and vowed to never forgive his snitch-ass mother again. He was quickly sent to the much higher security McCormick Juvenile Institution to finish his sentence. And it was actually during his 2-year stint here that X vowed to make more of himself. After spending a few years beatboxing, he realized that it was rappers that were getting all of the shine. You know, shine, not shine! X wrote to his uncle whilst he was in jail saying that he was done with beatboxing and wanted to be an MC. X managed to get his hands on a boombox in jail and spent the majority of time in there writing rhymes about his tough upbringing. It's not a bad idea. I mean, to be fair, how many 16-year-olds can say that they've broken out of jail, robbed numerous people at gunpoint with a sawn-off shotgun, and gotten addicted to crack? He's a triple threat. In fact, it was this incident that actually got DMX his #2 ranking on Billboard's Most Savage Teenagers chart, underneath Tay-K and above Band OK. Thankfully, when X came home in 1988, he was a new man. We all know that DMX went on to become one of the biggest rap phenomenons in history, but we all know throughout his career he has struggled to stay out of trouble and is constantly facing charges, whether it's drugs, violence, or abuse of animals. X has been through a lot, and it does seem like he's still struggling to this day, so I really hope that he gets all of the help that he needs so that he can pull through. But I just wanted to bring some light to this much forgotten piece of hip-hop lore because it definitely deserves to be remembered as a legendary, wild story. Because let's face it, putting aside all the talk, how many of your favorite rappers are breaking out of prison these days? I'll wait. Thanks for watching that video. I appreciate you watching, and until next time, peace out.